Welcome to Decisions, the podcast where boundaries are pushed and conversations get candid. Join your favorite hosts, me, Weezy WTF,
and me, Mandy B,
as we dive deep into the world of non-traditional relationships and explore the often taboo topics surrounding dating, sex, and love.
Every Monday and Wednesday, we both invite you to unlearn the outdated narratives dictated by traditional patriarchal norms. Tune in and join in the conversation.
Listen to Decisions on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Still the Place with Laura Layton,
Courtney Thorne-Smith,
and Daphne Zuniga, an iHeartRadio podcast.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
I love seeing the Christmas trees in your little squares.
It's my little Charlie Brown tree.
It's such a nice tree, Court, isn't it?
I should put lights on my ficus behind me.
You should.
I love it. It's such a fun season.
I did bring Georgie's Christmas hat.
Oh, well, good.
Georgie, you're beautiful in your hat. Nice. And that very Grinch. What's the name of the dog in Grinch? Max.
But he's so nice.
Right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we're so excited because we've got this Christmas episode to do today. It's so fun. And it is the season, you know.
So cool to watch the Christmas, our people do Christmas.
It is so much fun, but I got to say, and we'll get to it. My takeaway was, Daphne, you and Grant have smoking chemistry. I was like, whoo. Oh my, I watched it twice. The second time I was like, oh, now I'm really heated up. You guys were smoking.
Very cute, like finding little stuff that wasn't on the page, like just for that relationship between the two of you. I noticed the same thing, like just really cute, dynamic and stuff that was not written. That was your chemistry, and that's what you guys
just so loose. There was something really loose working with him, and just like I said, we got together and on the weekends and rode bikes, and we just really got to know each other.
Yeah, I know you guys did. I'm sure that was fun for you. I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. Anyway, side note, but what I saw was how much softer he is with Joe. Yeah, Joe brings out this really sweet side of him, which was so much fun to see. Yes. All right, should we get to it?
Let's go.
This was episode 18 in season 1, A Melrose Place Christmas.
I have to say, one episode away from Laura coming on.
Well,
yay!
That's fun. But this Christmas episode, I think, was a great episode that I think is worth watching twice. So anyway, and
this episode, if I can just say, I know everyone had their own stuff and there was some heavy stuff going on, but you can really see why the audience could relate with their own friends and really coming together with, just all the Christmas themes alone, like whatever everyone's going through to come together. Yeah. We really got to see in this episode.
Yeah. They did. They really used a lot of themes, and there was bittersweet, there was sad, there was upbeat, there was just cute and all so pretty and Christmassy. So here we go. Scene 1 opens on an exterior Christmas tree farm. Joe and Jake are looking for a Christmas tree. And Joe is sort of trying to talk him out of it, saying, this is dumb. It's just another excuse to throw away money. But Jake says, no, I grew up with an alcoholic mother who told me that Santa didn't visit poor people. I'm getting a tree, and I'm tired of being cynical.
That was so harsh.
And super harsh. But he's like, no, don't talk me out of this. I'm getting a tree. And then he picks out the tallest tree he can, and you see, and Joe's look is just,
I know. I'm like, doesn't that belong in Rockefeller Center?
Yeah. And then he goes, should I get flocking? And you had the best line reading, Daphne. You went, no.
Yeah.
It was just like, no.
Yeah. I love that.
And I love the camera work in this episode, and it's Bethany Rooney. Just going to give her a shout out.
Bethany Rooney, love her.
So good.
Yeah.
Such a pro. And I love my white sweater. Okay, I'll let you keep going, but I know
you were in white. I noticed that too.
Yeah, that long, big, oversized white sweater. Yeah.
And then back in Jake's apartment, this giant Christmas tree is so tall, it's bending at the top because it's touching the ceiling. And there's this really great ceiling POV where the camera's up top and looking down, way down on Jake and Joe.
So great.
Jake is excited to show Joe this remote control car that he's purchased, and he's going to give it to his son, David, for Christmas. And Joe is sort of wondering, well, who are you going to say it's from? Because you're not dad. And he says, well, I'll say it's from Santa Claus. And Joe mentions, well, I guess Santa does exist, but only for very lucky children. And this is one of those moments where I think she's seeing Jake as like, what a warm heart he has, because he's so excited and he's so lovely about wanting to give this gift to David. They share this very intimate look, then just sort of decide to break that moment.
And myself and the rest of the audience is saying, kiss her, just kiss her, because it's so like the electricity is just crackling.
Yeah.
Really sweet and soft and like immediate chemistry. Love this couple.
Immediate.
Then we cut to Allison, who's in a hospital bed. She's waiting to go in for her procedure, and Billy is standing at her bedside. And Allison confides to him that she's kind of nervous. And now that she is thinking, there's a possibility she might not be able to have kids, she's realizing she really does want to be able to someday. And he says, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And everybody, including Allison, notices what he says and how he says it. And she says, we'll cross that bridge.
Yes.
And he's kind of sheepish because he realizes what he said. And he clarifies, I'm just trying to be there for you. I just want to be by your side and help you through this. And she says, well, you're doing a great job. And this is especially tough time, especially at Christmas. And in walks Dr. Michael Mancini to just check on Allison.
But I just want to say quickly, because it's like the couples, we go from super sexy with Jake and Joe, and then sweet with Billy and Allison. It's like something for everyone. Like everyone wants a romance, like something for everyone in the first 5 minutes.
Well, the chemistry is not lacking in this one either. It's just,
but it's sweet. It's different, right?
I don't know. I'm the audience member here, and I'm rooting for both of these couples.
Of course,
I'm just saying, I'm there going, yes, and yes for each.
But I love
them.
how they are different tones, and because yours is so caring, you're in the hospital, and that feels like real and solid, and ours seems like new and crackly.
But also, I love the
differences.
Back. The Billy and Allison, they're holding back. They're trying to just remain friends, and so they're like just having this sweet friendship when we're all going, wait, there's so much more. And then Jake and Joe are like, bam, we're doing this because this is obvious. So cute.
Yeah.
So Michael checks on her and says, you're going to do fine. And oh, by the way, Jane is sending her love from Chicago, where she's spending Christmas with her parents. I noticed that they didn't mention that she's spending Christmas with her sister, because at this point, I think Sydney doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was wondering where she's not in this episode. So she must have had. Remember when that she and Rob got married right before we started? Maybe this is when she got to take her honeymoon.
Oh, maybe.
That's why they wrote her out of it, because there was no reason for it.
We should ask her. She might have had a conflict.
We should ask her. I wonder if she remembers. Because she just wasn't. Normally they'd have a scene where she says, I'm visiting my family, but he was in charge of the exposition.
But it gives Michael a very good opportunity to have his episode, which unfolds later.
Yeah.
And Allison, he leaves, and Allison tells Billy again, and once they're alone, that she is scared. And Billy again reassures her that everything is going to be okay.
Aww.
So we cut to Rhonda's aerobics class. She's teaching a step class. She's wearing a Santa hat. It's cute and festive, and she's so energetic and adorable. And she then catches a glimpse of Terrence watching her teach. He's checking her out from the back of the class. He's in a suit, and Rhonda is surprised, gets her class covered by another person to step in and teach. And she says, what are you doing? We were supposed to have a date night tonight. And he tells her he's going to have to cancel that date. And she's disappointed because she's leaving tomorrow for Christmas. He says, but how about if you maybe change your plans and go with me to Aspen?
How about
it? Plane tickets that he's already purchased for the two of them to spend the holidays in Aspen. And Rhonda's totally surprised, and she starts to worry out loud about, well, how will I tell my parents? And well, I don't have any ski clothes. I don't even know how to ski. He says, you don't have to decide. Think about it.
A classic.
Remember, that was the time
up.
of Aspen. Did you guys? That's when I was going to Aspen. That was the,
I
was pretending I like skiing. Yeah, I don't pretend.
Pretending you like skiing.
I was really pretending.
Do you remember when she visited us and she's like, oh, there's this one ski outfit I just loved. I don't know if she said she took it or she wanted to take it, but then we got to see it in this episode. It's so 90s.
It was adorable.
Purple one piece.
We go back to the hospital where Allison's being prepped for surgery. The doctor steps in to check on her and explains that she's been given some medicine that's going to make her sleepy, asks her to sing Jingle Bells as she falls asleep, and she gets through.
She gets through way more of Jingle Bells than you do. You know, I don't know if you've ever had, they go count from 10, you go 10, now whoosh. Like, it's just like, you don't get it all.
Yeah.
cinematically, they really wanted to draw that out.
She should have said, "Jingle bell, give me some more. Jingle bell."
And at this point, I was too young to have a colonoscopy, so I didn't know. Like now, I'd be like, "It is not that long." But then I was, I hadn't had a colonoscopy yet.
So out she goes. And then out in the hospital waiting room, we've got Billy and Matt and Joe, Jake, and Rhonda enters too. And Billy's very impatient to hear anything since Allison should have been out of the surgery by now. But the hospital won't release any information because none of them are immediate family, they say. So he goes out to the nurse's station to find out what's going on.
And did you notice, Daph, that you and Grant were perfectly mirroring each other in the chairs?
Oh yeah, away from
exact
each other.
mirrors. Yeah. That was so cute.
They were sort of back to back with their feet up.
Exactly the
same.
Out. I didn't know if that was conscious, but it was
a very cute little partnership.
Wasn't I did notice that. They're definitely bonding. Wasn't Matt and Rhonda kind of grouped? Like in those group scenes, the director will kind of group you. I noticed that.
Paired off.
It seems like a lot, I have to say, not to discount what Allison's going through, but it seems like a lot of people for a fibroid.
All of her friends are alarmed. When you hear
friends.
enlarged uterus, you think, wow, that sounds large. So I think, we better be there for Allison. And so they all show up for this.
But having had fibroids removed before, it was not as big a deal.
No one showed up for you?
No, I think my husband did at the time, but
we would have.
I don't remember there being quite as much excitement. I know for a fact you guys weren't there. Now I'm hurt.
Well,
you guys on a motorcycle ride, I'm sure, to get on a motorcycle ride.
We were at a dinner party at someone else's house.
Let's get to
Just
it.
Saying.
Yeah.
So he goes up to the nurse and says, "Hey, I'm Allison's brother. Can I go see her now that she's out of surgery?" Nurse calls his bluff and knows that he's not really her brother. But Michael walks up and assures Billy that not only is Allison fine, she will be able to have kids whenever she chooses. And he says, "I can probably sneak you in to see her. Come on." He delivers Billy to Allison's hospital room. Billy goes in alone and she's sleeping, and he very gently puts her blue cozy bathrobe over her.
And then wakes her up.
Yeah. She groggily wakes up. Billy assures her that she wasn't dreaming, that she is indeed fine. The surgery went well and she can someday have children. And then the doctor walks in and he says, "How's my new favorite patient doing?"
Now, did anybody else think that they were setting something up between Allison and the doctor? Because he was a handsome young doctor.
I felt like
my Melrose brain is in.
No.
Yeah.
I think we all sort of did like, handsome doctor. And that's how he is calling her. So we did sort of wonder like, hey,
okay.
Billy's girl. Step away, doc.
Back off, man.
But in a show like this, it is funny how you kind of go, there's a guest star that walks in and you're like, did we do a thing there? Is this my doctor? Is that gonna? Do I remember having something with this guy? And you're, oh no, he was just the doctor. Just
is this gonna come back to haunt me? He's seen my enlarged uterus.
Oh my goodness!
Maybe I'm his favorite patient.
It's the largest uterus I've ever seen.
Wow, oh my goodness!
I don't like to brag about my large uterus, but whatever.
You seem to love it.
People who know. I do bring it up a lot.
He tells Allison she could go home tomorrow, that as long as she has someone to take care of her. And she thinks, well, maybe I shouldn't. But Billy jumps in and says he will be the one to take care of her. Then we go to their apartment where Allison and Billy are returning home from the hospital. Allison is walking very gingerly in and getting situated on the couch. And she notices.
I was very committed to the pain in this episode. Like I did not let that reality waver.
For a second. Right. You remember that?
Yeah. Every scene. I could have made a different choice.
Just in case anyone forgot how traumatic an operation for an enlarged uterus would be. You were needing to walk very gingerly.
Isn't the place decorated?
Billy has gotten a Christmas tree that wasn't there when she left. And he's all decorated. And he said his dad has also dropped off all these Christmas lights and ornaments. And Allison says, I'm not really into Christmas that much this year. And Billy's tucking her in and taking care of her and saying, oh, you will be. And he says, I'm going to go to the grocery store to get stuff for you. And as he's leaving, Jo is arriving. She's bringing magazines for Allison.
In a great vest. Who loved that red vest, that printed, gorgeous vest? I love the vests we're in back then. There were a lot of good
Yet another vest.
Flattering.
Yeah.
And it's another opportunity for Jo to say, yes, Dr. Bill, to Billy.
Oh, right. Bill.
When he tells her that Allison needs rest. She goes, yes, Dr. Bill.
I feel like there was a cut somewhere because, Daph, you say, I just came to see if you were home. And I say, thank you. I'm like, I feel like you may have said something else. So I'm way too grateful that you checked to see if I was there.
Well, you remember you were just coming off your enlarged uterus drugs, so maybe you were.
Can we
We'll
stop
just say
saying that,
Allison's
please?
super high.
Can we just stop it already? You guys have had
Daphne, I know you're jealous of my large uterus.
You've
You're
had-
just going to have to deal with that on your own
I'm
time.
jealous of some things, but
Showing
not that.
it-
We'll get back to that in our little Melrose moment on Friday, okay? Not now.
And Allison here tells Joe that Billy has been being so nice since this surgery. She said it's kind of starting to feel weird, but like kind of weird in a good way, maybe, because she's smiling about that weirdness. So then we cut to the courtyard where Matt is going to Rhonda's apartment. This is where he finds her in her full ski suit.
Yes.
And she, including goggles, boots, poles, and
Jeez.
skis, all on in her living room.
Hey.
And it's purple, and she's fantastic. And so Rhonda tells Matt that Terrence has taken her shopping because she's clearly agreed to go to Aspen. But she's like wondering, is there some sort of catch? It's like this guy seems to be too good to be true. She asks Matt what he's doing for Christmas. He's just spending time with the kids at the halfway house, he says, not going to see his parents because he feels like they don't support him, even after he'd won his job back after being fired. And
I thought this was a little exposition. He said, after I lost my job for being gay. I was like,
for being fired
we're
for
done.
being gay. Yeah,
For
all
being
of it
fired.
needed to be
Let's
said.
just, in case you missed last episode,
Yes.
let's just make this clear.
Bring you all up to speed what happened.
Yeah. Right.
But
And why?
they end that scene with a sweet hug, wishing each other Merry Christmas. And Matt tells her, I think you're onto something with this guy. I would like to call out Matt's outfit and his mullet
Yes,
in this
please
scene.
do.
I will. It was a V-neck sweater with a white
Yes.
turtleneck underneath. So like a lot
Nice.
of turtleneck shows with a V-neck, people.
Yes,
and-
but that was the 90s and it's winter.
And
It's at
he had the
least
mullet.
70 degrees down from
And he had the
72.
what?
He had a bit of a mullet.
Oh yeah, he did. Totally.
He did. Anyway,
Little sprouts
This
here,
isn't
little
even the
sprouts
shirt. Yeah, this isn't even the shirt I want to call out.
yeah, we're still
Something
getting there.
happened. Something
There's
happened
more.
within this week.
More holiday clothes to come. And so we cut back to the hospital where Michael and Dr. Kimberly Shaw, Kimberly's back. They're running down the hospital hallway to help a young gunshot victim who's arrived bloodied on a gurney. And the mother of this child wants to come into the operating room, and Michael tells her she can't, but he'll let her know as soon as they know anything. She needs to wait outside. And the mother pleads to Michael, please don't let God take my baby away
She was
from me,
so
please."
good. She
Oh,
was
so
so good.
devastating.
This killed me.
Every
did so
parent's
well.
nightmare.
And shocking, right? Because Melrose, light, fun. And then, we're worried
Yeah.
about a fibroid. And then this kid comes in with a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
That shocked me.
We're back with Jake and Joe in Jake's apartment. They're adding
Mhm.
tinsel to this giant Christmas tree, and Jake is enjoying the tree, saying it smells like Christmas. And Joe says, wait, I got you something. She pulls out an angel tree topper for Jake, and he suggests that she climb
Just
a ladder
in
to
case
put
you
it
guys
on.
didn't know that we were smoking hot together yet.
This
Go
is-
ahead, Laura.
Right. Well, this is one of
Kisses,
Courtney's
Joe.
moments, like noticing that Jake was so sweet. He's like, why don't you put it on? He was
Oh.
so gentle and so loving. Like, this is so special. And thank you. It's so soft for Jake. And then,
Yeah.
but so she's climbing up this ladder.
Yeah,
to
she
try to
says, I'm
put it
afraid
on.
of heights.
Right.
Yeah.
She's
And I'm
climbing up
like,
a
I
two-step
saw
ladder.
that girl taking
Two-step
photos on
ladder.
ladders like for episodes at a time.
But
Yeah,
he's
well.
behind her, and all of a sudden she gets a little flustered, and she's like, "I'm just gonna put it here," and she sort of jams it in
Halfway.
the center of the tree. She's like, "There,
Halfway up.
good enough."
But then
I
who's there to
laughed
catch her when she
out
slides
loud.
down?
Oh,
She jams it in the middle of the tree. Yeah, it comes down from the ladder, and they find themselves sort of like face to face, and but they're interrupted.
Mm.
they
Yeah,
do
you're right.
kiss.
There's more to come, but
I
yeah, I got a
know.
little bit in there.
She does try to stop him and say, "Wait a minute, people do things during the holidays that they don't normally do. Maybe they'll regret it." But they're interrupted here.
Bill knocks
Hi,
on the
Bill.
door. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill. Nice to see you. And this is my favorite. Billy goes, "Yeah," and he turns to Jake.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." It was the best delivery. I went back and rewound.
So good. So good.
And Billy tells Jake and Joey he wants to get something nice for Allison, wanting advice, shows them this necklace that he bought for her. And they're both impressed, but Joe's like, wait, is something going on between you two? He says, why? Do you think the necklace might imply something? And she says, well, it's a really nice gift. So yeah, it might mean you're asking for something. Billy rolls his eyes and says, yeah, you would think that.
Right.
And he says, well, what about you, Jake? What do you think? Do you think the necklace crosses the line between friendship and romance? And Jake says, I don't know. It's a tough call. But Joe wants to clarify, hey, is it 18 karat or 24?
And by the way, what happened to 14 karat? Like,
no,
24 is not a gold bar. Is it 24 karat a gold bar?
No, she's Upper East Side, New York, babe. There's no 14 karat. That's for
these are her frames of reference, 18 or 24. And he says it's 24. And Joe says, yep, you're crossing the line.
You ain't friends.
Yep.
You're asking for something.
Hi, I'm Kristen Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? In 1997, my life was forever changed when I took on the role of Charlotte York on a new HBO show called Sex and the City. As we watched Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte navigate relationships in New York City, the show helped push once unacceptable conversation topics out of the shadows and altered the narrative around women and sex. We all saw ourselves in them as they searched for fulfillment in life, sex, and friendships. Now, I want to connect with you and share untold stories and all the behind the scenes. Together, with special guests, what will begin with Sex and the City will evolve into talks about themes that are still so relevant today. Are You a Charlotte is much more than just rewatching our beloved show. It brings the past and the present together as we talk with heart, humor, and of course, some optimism. Listen to Are You a Charlotte on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Decisions, the podcast where boundaries are pushed and conversations get candid. Join your favorite hosts, me, Weezy WTF,
and me, Mandy B,
as we dive deep into the world of non-traditional relationships and explore the often taboo topics surrounding dating, sex, and love.
That's right. Every Monday and Wednesday, we both invite you to unlearn the outdated narratives dictated by traditional patriarchal norms. With a blend of humor, vulnerability, and authenticity, we share our personal journeys navigating our 30s, tackling the complexities of modern relationships, and engage in thought-provoking discussions that challenge societal expectations.
From groundbreaking interviews with diverse guests to relatable stories that'll resonate with your experiences, Decisions is going to be your go-to source for the open dialogue about what it truly means to love and connect in today's world.
Get ready to reshape your understanding of relationships and embrace the freedom of authentic connections. Tune in and join in the conversation.
Listen to Decisions on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And Billy says, he just finds himself, he really wants to buy her nice things, especially since she became so kind of helpless and needed him and things he can't afford. And Jake's like, hey, nothing wrong with that. Good choice, Billy. Buy him.
Doesn't he like take him
out, Billy?
Doesn't he like push him out the door?
He starts to try to get him out the door. Like, all right,
well,
you spent enough time here. Bye. We were busy. And so Billy's still trying to defend himself. Like, wait a minute. No, I don't have feelings for Allison. Okay, bye. Enough. Bye. Sends him out the door. And another cute moment with Joe and Jake where
he turns back to her and he's like, okay, where were we? And she's like, no, you stay over there. Yeah. So cute. We know that they both want to jump on it.
Stay there. Keep your hands to yourself, she says. So cute. So then back to Allison's apartment. She's crying on the couch.
Sobbing again. I didn't,
while you're putting the lights together.
I remember doing a lot of crying scenes, being very nervous about them, but I'm sobbing in every episode.
That's exhausting.
I think I'm not good at like quietly letting tears roll down. I was sobbing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also what the scene called for. But like just to do that as an actor, like if that's exhausting. You were working
it's exhausting.
very hard. So Allison's crying.
You're not supposed to see how hard I was working, Laura. Well, Laura's like, you were clearly working very hard.
I'm not saying that it
you
looks like you're working hard. I just know
we were exhausted for you.
No, I'm just impressed that you had all that crying to do and you kept it up and you were great. So Billy walks in, sees her crying, and she explains she must have this post-op depression that the doctor had sort of warned her about. And
there it is.
Yep.
See? Yeah.
And I do remember this about these scenes, which is how frustrated I was because it was always, I would be sobbing and Billy would be like, are you okay? I'm sorry. And I'd be talking and sobbing. I was like, this feels really unfair.
Yeah.
Like the division of
Right.
labor doesn't feel
Uneven.
fair.
Yeah.
I'm crying and saying all the lines. And he just goes,
You have
are you
all the
okay?
lines, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
blah, 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 crack, 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 blah, blah.
We'll get through this. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
He was
assuring
adorable.
her that she's going to have a great Christmas. And she says, well, I don't even have money to buy gifts. And Billy's like "Psh, we're roommates. We don't need to exchange gifts. And we, of course,
it
know.
made me so mad that Joe was
Yeah.
so blunt with Bill in the last scene and was like, made him, not want to give her this beautiful bracelet. And he's like, oh,
But he's also trying to like walk that line because she's saying,
right.
can we just like make a pact? And he's like, sure, let's make a pact. And we don't need to exchange gifts. And they shake hands. They shake hands on this pact. And he's just trying to do the right thing. But the scene ended with such a sweet look on his face. He's really not sure that he likes that outcome.
No, he
It's super
doesn't.
sweet.
I think it's like crushed him basically. But,
Yeah.
show ain't over. Let's keep going.
So back at the hospital at night, Michael and Dr. Kimberly Shaw and Dr. Levin are out of surgery where they're discussing the young boy who was shot and sadly has not survived. And Michael they're all very upset.
So heavy.
Just the senselessness of the boy's death. And it's Christmas Eve, especially. And how on earth are these parents going to be able to endure this news? And Dr. Levin says that Michael needs to be the one to tell the parents that their son has died.
Michael was not expecting that. He was expecting
not.
him to tell him, the grown-up.
And Dr. Shaw, Kimberly, offers to go with Michael to deliver this news and be there for that. And Dr. Levin stops her and says, nope, Michael needs to do this on his own. So he very carefully approaches the parents of the young boy. They're anxiously waiting for news, and he gently tells them that their son did not survive. He had traumatic injuries, and he's terribly sorry, but they just could not save him. And the mother just dissolves into
that
sobs.
actress was so good. Just
good.
Lost it.
And it's Christmas Eve. I mean, just all awful.
Yeah.
So Michael then goes back to Dr. Levin, who tells Michael, well, brace yourself because tomorrow is Christmas. And at the hospital, we have our own set of traditions. Christmas Day statistically holds the greatest number of murders, suicide, and accidents. And he finishes with Merry Christmas, Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that filled me with dread.
Very different look at Christmas.
The heaviness of the show, again, they wrote this and took it on, and it was great in it.
And by contrast, yeah, exactly. Because then the contrast is we go back to the courtyard and it's now Christmas morning. And Billy is stringing Christmas lights on the balcony railing when Joe opens her apartment door to get her newspaper.
In her beautiful blue robe.
Very pretty blue silk robe. And Billy
she's like, looks over. I mean, I'm just like, sorry, you can read it, but I'm just like, God, Joe, leave Bill alone. Bill alone. He's such a nice guy.
I wonder how long you call him Bill.
How do you criticize the guy for putting up Christmas lights? But go ahead.
She's just a little Grinchy in this.
She was very Grinchy. He was going, Merry Christmas, Joe. And she's like, yes, same to you. Grinch.
I used to get it on with Jake a lot sooner. Get it on, girl.
Got some sexual tension building up. Yeah, it's making you angry.
And what are you doing? She says, well, I'm just trying to make the place look a little festive. And Joe says, it's weird to designate one specific day to hang these twinkly lights and spread peace and goodwill towards all. And anyway, they should have been up by now. And she goes back in her apartment.
Also, bah humbug.
Super bah humbug Grinchy. And Billy says, Merry Christmas to you too.
He never says, and it's Billy, Joe. No,
yeah, he does not correct her. He's like, yeah. So then we're back to Billy and Allison's apartment. Billy is knocking on Allison's bedroom door where she's recovering in bed, wishes her a Merry Christmas, and he's brought her some Christmas movies on VCR cassette tapes.
Oh my God.
Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, all the classics. Allison says, well, don't you want to watch them with me? And he says, well, I have to go to work. Got to drive the cab. Airport runs, all that. And they wish each other Merry Christmas, and he leaves to go to work.
So weird and sad.
I know.
He's just trying to navigate it all, right? Like he wants to take care of you, but now he's having feelings. So I don't give her the bracelet. We're just friends, but it's Christmas. I mean, there's a lot of inner.
And he's got to work. I mean, the
conflict.
fact is, a guy's got to work and
Yeah.
somebody's got to drive the cab on Christmas. It just happens to be the guy who doesn't have a family and whatever, young guy, new guy. So off he goes. And then we're back to the hospital. We're in the staff room, and Michael is clearly distracted and dwelling on everything he's just dealt with. And Kimberly comes in. She's very upbeat, asks Michael if he'll join her for a cup of eggnog at the Christmas party that's happening in the lobby. And he says, nope, I'm not really feeling it. And that woman who lost her child is never going to be able to not think of this on Christmas. And I don't know that I will either. So Kimberly sombers a little bit, and she says, well, losing the boy was not your fault, Michael, and you did everything you could. But he says that he used to believe nothing bad could happen on Christmas. And he used to believe he had a special relationship with God, which might have been what made him want to become a doctor. But now he realizes that there's no God involved. It's just medicine. And Kimberly tells him, don't dwell on the ones you lose. You have to think about the ones you save.
Yeah.
At which time,
which is a really good, surprisingly deep for this scene when you think, how many doctors think I'll be able to heal people, and then they find out they can't heal everybody. How terrifying it must be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go to work knowing that it's literally life or death, which is obvious, I know, but it struck me in this scene.
Yeah. But for him to be acknowledging, hey, there's, that his feeling right now is just so devastated. He's like, there's no God here. This is just medicine. And
Yeah. It's like a grown,
there's no God and I'm not God.
Yeah.
Which,
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his pager goes off and he says to her, well, back to the wars. And out he goes. So back in Billy and Allison's apartment, Matt is there. She is now sitting up at the kitchen table, but she's peeling potatoes. Matt's prepping a big
I love this scene, Court. I thought it was hilarious. I love that there's just Christmas stuff everywhere. I love that Matt's got his little cooking towel and you sitting there with that turkey. There's something about these group stuff and making the food, and I just love how the sets and the props are they fill it all out. You really feel, again, I can see how the audience wanted to be there. They wanted to live in Melrose Place.
Yeah.
And it's scenes like this. It's not the other stuff. It's scenes like this that really enhance that. You guys are so
well, and I'm super
there.
happy. First of all, super in pain. Keep that very committed to the pain. Ow,
I felt it.
But also, I'm just happy because I get to do a scene with Doug. So that was so my happy place.
Do you remember shooting the scene? Do you remember that particular?
No, but I can tell I know how I felt when I got to work with Doug.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. And I was just super happy. The same thing in scenes with you, Daph. I can see that we're genuinely happy to be playing together. Yeah. And I think that's what reads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're so funny. You say I'm not going to stuff it. The turkey.
Yeah, you stuff it.
You stuff it. I mean, it's just funny.
They're talking about their massive cooking list. They're making this turkey, that she's peeling the potatoes. There's going to be a pumpkin souffle, homemade rolls from scratch, homemade cranberry sauce.
I know.
Everything
Who was
from
Allison's
scratch.
mother? Like Martha Stewart, it sounds like.
Right.
My
She
mother
says,
would
well,
always
we have to make the cranberry sauce from the can. My mother would never have done this stuff from the can.
What does her mother have to do with it?
From scratch.
It's Matt who's here making it.
And he's like, oh, all right, well, then maybe we'll just have to not make the homemade pie crust from scratch. But it's then that the both of them realize, geez, how did our mothers do this?
I mean, and by the way, Allison's sitting there because of the, the fibroids and all that. And so
you don't want to say
exactly helping. I don't want to say it. I want to I'll go fibroid and that's that. But but I just feel like she's not even going to, chip in that much. She's unable to.
Well, it's hard because she can only get so close to the table because of the huge uterus.
Well,
so
this is why
that keeps her sitting back.
This is why, if you don't say it, Daph, Courtney's going to.
No. Come on, kid. Keep it moving.
This is why also he's saying, okay, while you're sitting there, you stuff it. You can do, this is something you can do. I'll do everything else. I mean, he's gonna run to his apartment and start the souffle. Then he's gonna come back and he'll load the bird when she's done stuffing it. So he gives her tasks that she can do from her seated position.
One quick question. In the beginning, he's going, so it takes this long to cook. I'm like, are you guys just looking that up now? Couldn't you have checked that yesterday? Didn't your moms get up at 5 a.m. to put the bird in? That's what I remember.
Yeah, reverse engineer it.
My first thought was, and I don't really cook that much, but it was they're nowhere near. They're not going to be eating until midnight, right? Is that right? Like everything's just getting started. And now they got to do homemade cranberry. And now they got to do the homemade stuff that Allison
They are
wants.
not going to be ready. And I do cook. And I know Courtney cooks too. Like this is none of this is going to happen on time if you're going to make it all homemade and you're
the
just
cranberry sauce
now.
should be done.
Yes.
The bread should be crescent rolls.
The turkey should be stuffed.
Yes.
Yep, everything should be prepped. Yep. The crust. Yep. Everything. So anyway, we can see that's not going to happen. But we go back to Joe knocking on Jake's door, and she's holding a wrapped Christmas gift, telling Jake that it's just something to stick under that monster tree. And Jake smiles, inviting her into the apartment so he can give her gift. But she says, "No, I'll pick it up later." And she turns to leave. He stops her and says, "Hey, what? Why? You don't need to run." And Joe says, "I feel like spending Christmas alone. I didn't travel 3,000 miles to leave one controlling man just to fall into the arms of another one."
And I was so glad that you had that line, because I was thinking, why are you not? Like, we've seen the kiss. Why are you not? And I feel like it's kind of that like you kind of went back and forth, and finally we know why.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's why she's resisting, because the audience, myself included, are going, why would you stop that kiss, lunatic?
Yeah. You're right. It did offer necessary explanation.
It's another crumb. She left a controlling man, and she's not going to be controlled. And it's all starting to explain why she's been so like uptight and mean, especially to Bill.
And she doesn't want to rush into it. She just got here, but he encourages her to come in, saying he makes killer eggnog and he has a copy of Elvis Sings Christmas that he hasn't played for 10 years. Come on. Yeah. And she reluctantly agrees to stay, saying, "Well, I hate eggnog, but I'm a sucker for Elvis."
So I love her boundaries, Court, and I love how strong they are, don't you?
Yeah, they're really impressive. It's like an iron wall.
Yeah.
Literally 10 seconds later with the mention of Elvis.
Oh, did you say Elvis? All right.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kristen Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? In 1997, my life was forever changed when I took on the role of Charlotte York on a new HBO show called Sex and the City. As we watched Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte navigate relationships in New York City, the show helped push once unacceptable conversation topics out of the shadows and altered the narrative around women and sex. We all saw ourselves in them as they searched for fulfillment in life, sex, and friendships. Now, I want to connect with you and share untold stories and all the behind the scenes. Together with special guests, what will begin with Sex and the City will evolve into talks about themes that are still so relevant today. Are You a Charlotte is much more than just rewatching our beloved show. It brings the past and the present together as we talk with heart, humor, and of course, some optimism. Listen to Are You a Charlotte on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Decisions, the podcast where boundaries are pushed and conversations get candid. Join your favorite hosts, me, Weezy WTF,
and me, Mandy B,
as we dive deep into the world of non-traditional relationships and explore the often taboo topics surrounding dating, sex, and love.
That's right. Every Monday and Wednesday, we both invite you to unlearn the outdated narratives dictated by traditional patriarchal norms. With a blend of humor, vulnerability, and authenticity, we share our personal journeys navigating our 30s, tackling the complexities of modern relationships, and engage in thought-provoking discussions that challenge societal expectations.
From groundbreaking interviews with diverse guests to relatable stories that'll resonate with your experiences, Decisions is going to be your go-to source for the open dialogue about what it truly means to love and connect in today's world.
Get ready to reshape your understanding of relationships and embrace the freedom of authentic connections. Tune in and join in the conversation.
Listen to Decisions on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So back at the hospital in the hallway at night, there's a pregnant woman very much in labor, rolling into the hospital on a gurney in very serious labor. Michael's hurrying alongside, and the woman's husband's saying that her water broke. They were at Christmas dinner, but their OB is in Hawaii. Nobody to deliver this baby. Kimberly rushes in saying, and Michael, the chief resident, is in surgery. We're going to have to wait until he's out to deliver this baby. And the woman says, I can't wait. And Michael says, all right, I can be the one. I can deliver this baby. And all right, you go get prepped for delivery. And as the patient is wheeled away, Michael suddenly becomes a little less confident. And he turns to Kimberly and he says, hey, have you ever delivered a baby? And she's like, what? No. Have you? And he admits, actually he's only assisted and observed, but never actually delivered one. But he grabs Kimberly's arm and pulls her along, saying, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." And together they go through the double doors labeled maternity, and they're going to do this.
And how full of dread were you?
You're like, oh, don't.
Oh, God. Oh, because of the last scene. I was so full of dread. I was like, please don't do this to me again. I barely recovered from the gunshot wound. Oh,
yeah.
So we're back at Jake's apartment where he's adding a little nutmeg to his eggnog.
Little spice.
A little spice. Well, Joe is wondering why.
Little spice to his lady.
Yeah. Which she said she didn't like, but maybe since
who cares? I like it now. She's very wishy-washy, but go on.
And she's wondering why Christmas is the only holiday with carols, which I thought was so funny. And Jake's like, well, what, Elvis sings Easter? I don't think so. And Joe says she really loves this CD, which I'm sure you noticed now that it's 2024 and those music rights are not there. This was not Elvis playing over the scene.
Yes.
That I heard. I mean, it probably was in 1992 because they had limited, rights to use this song for the scene. And
would that change?
But now they don't. So for streaming, like now that we have these things are on DVDs and they're streaming and stuff, those music rights are all changed. So I think a lot of our original music has been replaced for the streaming versions of what we're all watching.
Oh, that's some insider stuff.
I wouldn't have remembered that, but the minute you said that, I thought, oh, it didn't sound like Elvis.
Because it wasn't Elvis. But that's the version that we're watching today. But I think in 1992, it was probably an Elvis Christmas song because that was a whole story point, right?
Because we would have heard about that if it wasn't.
Right. It was a whole story point. He said, I've got the CD. And she's like, great, I'm in.
Yeah.
So anyway, he then wants to find out why were you in such a hurry to run off earlier when I blocked your getaway? And she says, I just have bad associations with Christmas, my husband and his dreadful family. And he says, well, I think you just need to find new meaning in Christmas. And she says, well, it's not so. Yeah. And he says it's not so easy. And he says, why does it have to be so complicated? I have found new meaning. And he then, turns into them. Pulls her up from the couch. They start dancing to the Christmas music. Pretty soon they're kissing. And Joe forgets everything she was saying. She says, doesn't matter what I was saying is now relevant.
Yeah, forget what I said about the controlling whatever and forget about the eggnog. Love it. And whatever I'm going to have to
diaphanous boundaries. They're very, very,
just ignore it all, honey.
This is good. I like kissing. So they end up on the couch. They're making out. And then Joe does stop him from sort of going any further, unbuttoning her top. And he reminds Jake that he said Elvis and eggnog. And sort of stops him right there. And Jake says, but I do know how I feel about you. I want to be with you in any way that makes you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe kisses him and says, just this for tonight. Puts up a boundary there. Jake says, well, sort of reminds me of being in the back of an old Mustang. She says, well, if you play your cards right, you might get lucky by Valentine's Day.
It's so hard to have this kind of scene with somebody that you're not comfortable with. It's so hard to like all the acting chops in the world, but it really you can only do it with someone that is fun. You're playing, you're play acting at the end of the day. And so I've had these kinds of scenes with other people and it's just gets so serious. And when the chemistry's not there, it's so much hard. So.
And his last line is really cute because he says, well, I kind of feel like I'm lucky right now.
Oh,
it's such a cute line to end the scene with.
This is the softness you guys are talking about,
Yeah, that Joe really brings out in him. It's so yummy.
Yeah, good. So then back at Allison and Billy's apartment, she's on the phone asking for Billy. She's calling the cab companies, telling the operator, you need to tell him to phone home right away. And she hangs up and tells Matt she doesn't know if Billy's coming back for Christmas dinner.
But the operator's saying he's not working. So now we know that Billy was lying about going to work.
So she's admitting she's worried that Billy's trying to avoid her after what she said. And she's afraid she's ruined Billy's Christmas. Matt realizes he needs a whisk for what he's whipping up in the kitchen. She doesn't have one, so he heads out to grab one from his apartment, telling Allison, don't worry about Billy.
And she goes, sorry, we just have the basics. And I'm like, I don't know, but there's so much stuff spread everywhere and food and their plans. And I'm like, I don't know about your basics, Allison, but they've done so much already. So, but I love that
no whisk.
His place for the whisk.
He does. So he goes outside and in the courtyard, he notices his father, Matt's father, just turning to walk away from Matt's apartment door. Matt stops him and saying, "Hey, I was just next door making dinner with friends." And his father is really grateful when Matt invites him in to his apartment. So inside, Matt's dad compliments Matt's apartment and goes on to apologize to Matt for his lack of understanding of that work business, he calls it, and that he was pleased to hear from Matt's mother that everything has worked out with his job. He says he'll always be on Matt's side, and the last thing he wants to do is alienate Matt. He tells Matt that he loves him so much, and can we put this all behind us? And Matt agrees to put it behind them.
It's
Matt's
really
father
sweet.
says,
The dad is so vulnerable. I love this scene.
and he was great in this scene. His name is James Handy, lovely actor, and he was terrific in the scene. Doug loved working with them. And so they end the scene where he says to Matt that Christmas just isn't the same without him, wants him to come home to the house where his mom will have dinner waiting. But Matt says, "I'm going to make dinner with my friends tonight, but it means a lot to me that you came." So they hug, they wish each other Merry Christmas.
Well, first they shake hands. Did you notice that they shake hands? I was like, no. And then they pulled each other into a hug. I was so happy.
They exchange I love yous, and Matt's dad leaves.
Hi, I'm Kristen Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? In 1997, my life was forever changed when I took on the role of Charlotte York on a new HBO show called Sex and the City. As we watched Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte navigate relationships in New York City, the show helped push once unacceptable conversation topics out of the shadows and altered the narrative around women and sex. We all saw ourselves in them as they searched for fulfillment in life, sex, and friendships. Now I want to connect with you and share untold stories and all the behind the scenes. Together with special guests, what will begin with Sex and the City will evolve into talks about themes that are still so relevant today. Are You a Charlotte is much more than just rewatching our beloved show. It brings the past and the present together as we talk with heart, humor, and of course, some optimism. Listen to Are You a Charlotte on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Then we cut back to the hospital. They're in the delivery room, and there's a newborn baby.
Oh, thank God. I was so relieved.
Michael is relieved and joyously holding this newborn, handing the baby over to the mother. And Michael and Kimberly happily walk out of the delivery room. And he says to Kimberly, "Well, that was unbelievably beautiful."
Yeah.
Welcome to Decisions, the podcast where boundaries are pushed and conversations get candid. Join your favorite hosts, me, Weezy WTF,
and me, Mandy B,
as we dive deep into the world of non-traditional relationships and explore the often taboo topics surrounding dating, sex, and love.
That's right. Every Monday and Wednesday, we both invite you to unlearn the outdated narratives dictated by traditional patriarchal norms. With a blend of humor, vulnerability, and authenticity, we share our personal journeys navigating our 30s, tackling the complexities of modern relationships, and engage in thought-provoking discussions that challenge societal expectations.
From groundbreaking interviews with diverse guests to relatable stories that'll resonate with your experiences, Decisions is going to be your go-to source for the open dialogue about what it truly means to love and connect in today's world.
Get ready to reshape your understanding of relationships and embrace the freedom of authentic connections. Tune in and join in the conversation.
Listen to Decisions on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And they both sort of marvel at the miracle of life. And Kimberly points out, I hope you're feeling better now that a new life has happened, so profoundly on the same day as death. And he admits that he does feel better, but again says, maybe he felt the force of God was in the room, though he's never going to be able to stop trying to control things. Then he tells Kimberly he's leaving the hospital. She says she is too. And he spontaneously says, "Hey, why don't you come back to, my apartment complex for dinner at my place. It's an orphan dinner, just all of us rootless children without families." And she sort of reluctantly, but then agrees to come, and she goes to change, and she says she'll meet him in the parking lot.
Now that we know what Kimberly has become, it's such an innocent beginning, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's just invited because Jane's out of town, and she's just invited over this little orphan Christmas over at Melrose Place. And my God, just
you're right.
think, what if?
And the two of them also have a really nice dynamic and chemistry.
Yeah.
Speaking of, because they really have, a thoughtful relationship, and think about deep stuff and the medical connections. And I don't know, they have their own chemistry that's really like nice to watch. And you can see this friendship. You know, we have to just unsee that for now.
I wonder if they knew. When we have Darren on, let's ask him if they knew at this point. Like, did they bring her back just to disrupt things in the future? Because it starts off so innocently. Although Thomas did tell us that they were playing the chemistry early.
A little flirtness, yeah.
Yeah, as in something to give the writers ideas.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was there too, just enough of a door opening as a possibility. They played their scenes super lovely in this Christmas episode.
Yeah.
So we're back in the apartment, and Allison and Billy's apartment is where all the food is going to be set out on this huge buffet. All the food that they've spent all day making. Apparently, they've succeeded. It's sweet potatoes, it's rolls, it's pecan pies.
Were you wondering where they were going to eat?
Oh my God!
Because all the food, there's no table with chairs. I was like, where are you going to eat this?
Well, they've managed to pull off this giant Christmas dinner for everybody. And Billy walks into the apartment, says it smells great, and asks Allison how she's feeling. She says she's feeling much better. And she says, can I talk to you? And he says, actually, I wanted to talk to you too. Can we talk alone? So they go into Billy's bedroom to talk alone, and they sit down on Billy's bed. And Allison goes
first. And just
first.
quickly, did you guys notice I have a floor-length velvet dress on? Which feels like a lot for friends for dinner.
It's a very special night.
Very nice gown Allison's wearing.
Wasn't it like red velvet?
It's a deep red velvet.
I remember that fabric though, like that crushed velvety, squishy
Absolutely.
stuff. Kind of velour. Yeah, velour.
It's coming back in, by the
90s,
way. Yeah. Because
Okay.
the 90s, it's back.
And so Allison goes first. She apologizes to Billy about being a bit of a bitch since she's been home, but that she appreciates everything he's been doing for her, and that she reveals that it's kind of made her nervous, feeling like she's getting so close to him, and that needing him has started to feel scary. And she tells Billy here that he is more than just someone to split the rent with. He's now her best friend. And then Billy says that the way he felt about Allison when she was in the hospital surprised him too, that he feels scared too about how much he cares about her. So Allison apologizes, says, I feel bad. We're not exchanging gifts, and you really deserve a great present. And Billy tells her, I used to love getting gifts when I was a kid, but nothing felt as great as getting you this. And he jumps up and he goes to the dresser in his room and he pulls Allison's gift from his dresser. He's like waiting for the opportunity to give it to her anyway. And he's just so happy to do it. And she opens the bag and she sees this beautiful necklace and says, oh, Billy, it's beautiful. I don't know what to say. And he tells her, just say Merry Christmas. And they stand up and she says, Merry Christmas. And she kisses him on the cheek and they hug. And it's so sweet.
I've still got to say, Allison seems dense to me. Like there's a jewelry box. There's a gold necklace. Like she's still saying, you're the greatest, buddy. It's like, how are you missing? How is she missing the signs?
I'm going to defend Allison because Billy doesn't want her to come to that conclusion just yet. He's not so sure. He hasn't committed to that conclusion, right? He's still walking a line where he's not so sure because he's not coming out and saying it, right? He's giving the necklace going, do you think?
But everything you said about this scene about I'm scared of how much I need you, I'm scared of how much I love, it could be a romantic conversation too. I'm afraid of how much I feel for you. I'm afraid of how much I love you. Like it's just
right.
It's because you have a history together already and it's just friends. And that's more awkward than just, Jake and Joe meet each other and there's chemistry and they're both single. But maybe that's your issue. He's not married, so you're not that turned on by him.
Okay, that's not fair.
That's not where I was going.
That's not fair.
But I just feel like I feel for you guys because there's a history and there's a comfortability and there's just a history of friends, and it's awkward to change it maybe.
But also, I know you were kidding with the married, but what that did spark something for me, which is he is emotionally available for her. And that's very scary for Allison. So she will choose the unavailable guy. Yeah. So I think you were actually onto something.
Okay. But what we've seen in this scene from what they both said, they're both feeling the same thing. And they're both revealing it to each other in this moment.
Yeah. And it was a very long kiss on his cheek.
feeling things that scare them. And we all know what those feelings are.
Yes.
So they leave to go back to the kitchen and the living room for the food. And Joe and Jake are entering the apartment with a bowl of eggnog, saying, this delicious smell was driving us nuts. And Matt says the turkey might be a little dry. He had to nuke it to get it done on time. Billy says, I hate eggnog. And Jake laughs, saying, you're going to love this eggnog. And Joe wants to know how Allison's doing. She says, much better. And she shows them the necklace that Billy just gave her. Joe here just rolls her eyes and walks out of the shot. But she goes up to Billy with a cup of eggnog. And and this is where he just quietly tells Joe, the necklace was a token of friendship. And Joe says, of course, it's just a token of friendship. And that's exactly what you get in return. Right. She sticks it to him there.
Zings him.
And then Michael and Kimberly come into the apartment. Michael introduces her as his colleague, saying, Kimberly and I made a baby together. And then off of everyone's stunned faces, he says, I mean, we delivered a baby together. It was our first one. It was amazing.
And if Allison wasn't so high on painkillers, she would have said, we only have enough for the guests we invited.
And we only made a few things.
I feel so protective of Jane. Don't you guys feel protective of Jane when he says that?
I feel like she's kind of left out of this. This is such a lovely party, and
she's really getting married probably in real life, but still, I'm like, Jane, get back here. Something's happening. And
Billy tells everyone, let everybody go outside. I've got a big surprise before dinner. So they go out into the courtyard. Everybody's got their cups of eggnog, and Billy tells everyone to look up. And he plugs in the Christmas lights, and the whole courtyard lights up with beautiful colored lights everywhere.
So pretty.
And it's lovely. And there's Christmas music underneath the scene. And Joe says, wait, I want to make a toast. And she raises her glass and she says, I always thought that friends were people that you meet in high school or college. I never expected to meet them in an apartment building like this. She says she never thought she'd be the one to discover the meaning of Christmas, but now she realizes that she is living this Christmas spirit, and it's all
Laura,
about
are you about to crack
rebirth.
up? Is something funny to you about her saying this?
No, I'm telling you.
You're laughing. You're like, and then she's...
I'm like, are you kidding me? I just think it's so sweet and lovely.
I think she's touched.
This is her Charlie Brown. Like,
I'm waiting for you to laugh. Yes.
No, she's having
so
the epiphany moment. Daphne, you're such a cynic. You're like, what are you laughing at?
I'm still in character.
She's turning into Daphne's body.
Oh my God.
I'm like, you laughing at her.
It's just so sweet. Like, no, because like Joe in this moment, I have to point out, is smiling. And she's like, I'm happy. Like, can I share with you what I've learned about? Like, she's smiling. Instead of the cynical, poopy, grinchy Joe, she's like, wait a minute. I'm here to say, I'm so grateful, and this is all about rebirth. And here's to my new friends, my new life. And they all toast. It's like such this happy, wonderful.
It's great. I just thought you were laughing. My mistake.
Well,
no, I did. That's what I meant when I was texting someone last night. I was so emotional anyway, and I was just watching this, and I just love doing this 30 years later, because you really do get swept up into all of their friendship and stuff.
Well, and I think the episode used all these wonderful, the images and the lit up courtyard and everybody's smiling faces and Joe having her turning point moment where she goes from being grinchy to wait a minute, this is wonderful. And I want to tell you all how wonderful this is. And here's to my new friends and my new life. And once they toast, Matt says, all right, now can we just go in and eat, please? And they go inside and everyone goes in except for Billy. He sort of lingers back and he stays outside admiring the lights. And Allison stays back too. And she goes to stand next to him. And Billy says, Joe is right. This is beautiful. We should leave these lights up all year. And Allison wishes Billy a Merry Christmas and again kisses him very sweetly on the cheek. And he puts his arm around her and they go back into their apartment together. And the camera pulls back with a wide shot of this beautiful, merry courtyard.
I love the lights up all year. We did lights on the tree in front of our house a few years ago and just kept them up.
Yeah.
Were they colored or were they white?
Well, they started out white. Now they're kind of white and gold because as lights go out and you have to replace them, you can never do an exact match. So I'm pretending they're supposed to be. I'm saying it was a conscious choice. White, there's sort of different shades of white, but it actually is pretty. And I don't want to throw away lights that are still good because of the waste. So I'm like, I'm just going to go with it.
Well, I like lights that are, I think that's perfectly appropriate if they're anytime anyone wants to leave any light up, that's fine. But the white ones I think are really great. I've seen inside too. I know people that do that, or
so
on
pretty.
their railings. I think they're great.
Well, this was a very festive Christmas episode. It sort of
Great.
felt like one of these things that you should watch. And people, our audience, our listeners to our podcast, if you didn't actually watch the Melrose Christmas episode, you should. And it's one of these things I think people can go to. You know how people have their go-to Christmas movies, like
Oh,
Yes, that's a good
whatever, and they're watching it. Like
idea.
it almost feels like this episode of Melrose is one of those where you get your ups and your downs and your bittersweets. You might have like you feel a little teary at some point, and then it ends on just such a like warm Christmassy
Yeah,
feeling.
it's very
That's how this
heartfelt.
episode feels to me.
I
yeah,
think
they
I
did a
think you're
good job
absolutely right.
servicing all the characters, right? Like every single character had something interesting to do, which is
Yeah.
not easy to do with so many cast members, except Josie, who maybe is doing something interesting somewhere else. But she
And then Rhonda went skiing, and
But
got
she
to wear
still
that
had
great
her
outfit.
fabulous moment and that fabulous.
Yeah,
scene.
she had
everybody
a
had a
little
great
bit, but-
moment.
This
No,
was
I
a fun
agree.
episode.
I think this is classic. It's really great.
Super fun. And it's we just want to wish all of our Still the Place listeners a very happy holidays. And
And
just-
don't forget, this was
yeah.
the Christmas episode was 18. And guess who comes to the apartment
Wow.
building 19?
Woo!
incoming.
Sydney.
Sydney's
Yay!
coming.
Our Christmas present is Laura coming on the next episode.
Yay!
Yay. Well,
So
thanks everybody
excited.
for listening. We're so grateful for our listeners, and happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, have a
Happy
great time,
holidays,
whatever
everyone.
you're doing.
Thanks
Be
for listening.
safe, and we'll see you
See
soon.
you next time.
Bye.
Yay!
Welcome to Decisions, the podcast where boundaries are pushed and conversations get candid. Join your favorite hosts, me, Weezy WTF,
And me, Mandy B.
as we dive deep into the world of non-traditional relationships and explore the often taboo topics surrounding dating, sex, and love.
Every Monday and Wednesday, we both invite you to unlearn the outdated narratives dictated by traditional patriarchal norms. Tune in and join in the conversation.
Listen to Decisions on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.